Hi everybody! If you don't know me already, my name is Kaylee. I am a gut health nutrition coach, so I help people to overcome their chronic gut and digestive issues using the principles of ancestral nutrition as well as some other holistic health principles. And in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how you can stop sugar cravings and kick that sugar addiction for good. So basically, if right now you feel a little bit helpless to your sugar cravings, you get that very strong craving and you want that sweet now, and there's very little that can stop that from happening, and you feel like you're stuck in this willpower battle where maybe you've tried to quit sugar before by just cutting it out, or your sugar craving comes up and you just try to will your way through it. I won't eat sugar. And maybe you can keep that up for a few days or a week, and then you cave and you find it really, really challenging. And yeah, you just feel like there's this huge block from you and just not having these sugar cravings anymore. Then this video is definitely for you, because I'm going to be talking about how you can make this not just a willpower battle, and how you can actually work with your body to decrease your sugar cravings and eventually get rid of them based on what's causing them at the root. So you probably heard about root cause protocols and the importance of really just healing your symptoms, healing your issues at their root. The same thing is true for sugar cravings. So I'm going to be going over the main root causes for sugar cravings and then how you can overcome them, how you can change things so that really you'll just stop having those sugar cravings. And it's a little bit of a process. It's harder at first, but over time this gets to be really, really easy. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be sharing today. But before we get too far into the video, I do want to let you guys know I have a couple of spots open in my program, Ancestral Gut Healing, right now. It's a program where I work with you to heal your specific gut issues at the root. I help you to identify the root causes. I give you a roadmap to heal. I give you guidance along the way. I give you lots of resources. So if that's something you're interested in, just stick around till the end and I'll talk more about that. But back to the video. So let's see. Let's just start with the causes and then I'll go into how to fix them. So the first cause is going to be gut microbiome imbalance, also called gut dysbiosis. So what happens here is your gut microbiome has good friendly microbes in there, and then also has some pathogenic microbes. Now it's always going to have some of these pathogenic microbes, like you might have heard of candida, which is a yeast. In excess it can cause candida overgrowth, which can lead to yeast infections or thrush or things like that. But if it's kept into its tiny little population, it won't cause any issues. So the main thing with our gut microbiome is we want to keep those pathogenic microbes to a small population, and we want to have a diverse range of lots of good microbes so that they can basically keep the not so good ones in check. So when your microbiome is off balance and you have too much of these pathogenic ones, your body will crave sugar because your microbes will crave sugar. So a lot of the pathogenic microbes eat sugar. That's their main diet. That's what they thrive on. So it's kind of a chicken and the egg situation a little bit, because when you eat lots of sugar, it allows those ones to grow more and more and repopulate. So eating a lot of sugar is one thing that can throw your gut microbiome off. And when your gut microbiome is thrown off, you will crave more and more sugar because these little microbes go I want sugar, and they influence your brain and your craving, so then you crave sugar even harder. So as you can see, it's a cycle that gets worse and worse, so we have to break that cycle. But I just want to let you know, those sugar cravings, they're not just you, they're literally microbes in your gut craving sugar and trying to get your body to eat it. So you're actually battling all their forces here too. So then, and I have a whole video on gut dysbiosis. I'll talk about it a little bit more in the cure section too, but I will link that up there if you want to go more in detail into gut dysbiosis. Okay, so the second main cause is just addiction. You've probably heard of this before, how sugar is addictive by nature. You've probably heard there's a lot of studies that say it's more addictive than cocaine. It's typically said it's 11 times. I don't know how they measured that. I don't know how accurate it is, but essentially there's a lot of things backing up that sugar is extremely, extremely addictive, just like a drug is. So basically how it works is you eat it, stimulates the pleasure center in your brain. It's called the nucleus accumbens, and basically in your brain, all these neurotransmitters like dopamine are released, and it gives you this really good, nice feeling. And then another part of your brain, the hippocampus, remembers this and stores this little memory. Sugar makes me feel great. And it can actually kind of go back to later and be oh, sugar made me feel good. I want more of that. So that can also influence the addiction cycle here. This is really similar to other drugs too. And tolerance, just like with other drugs, applies. So basically, over time, you want more and more sugar. So this is something, once you've overcome your sugar cravings, if you're ever like in a coffee shop and you're like, oh, I used to love this kind of blueberry muffins or whatever, and you're like, I'm gonna treat myself to a blueberry muffin today, and you order it and you bite into it and it just tastes like sugar and it's disgusting and you want to puke. That's how I feel. I just don't even like these things anymore because they're so gross, because they just taste like sugar. But you'll get there. But what happens is, over time, people need more and more sugar to get the same high, essentially, the same dopamine high, the same pleasure, the same enjoyment. So more and more sugar is added, to the point you open a cookbook. Like, I remember looking once at a muffin recipe I used to make when I was little. And it was like 2 cups flour and like a cup of sugar or something like that. It's disgusting. So they put so much sugar in these things because people have gotten so basically just desensitized to just a little bit of sugar that you need more and more and more. So, yeah, that's kind of the thing there. So if you're eating tons and tons of sugar because you've developed this tolerance and you eat more and more and more, it's going to be a little harder, but don't worry, you can still absolutely do this. It will just take a little longer, and you'll need to add a little bit of a weaning off period, which I'll talk about in a second. So yeah, no sugar is super duper addictive just by nature. And then, let's see, I have 4. So the third main root cause is nutrient deficiencies. So also note, you probably have like all or a few of these root causes and not just one. You might have just one, but it's really common to have a bunch of them. So with nutrient deficiencies, our bodies will oftentimes have cravings when we're deficient in nutrients, because it's hoping that you'll go eat the thing that will give you the nutrient that you need. So with sugar cravings, typically that's kind of a distorted craving from a fruit craving. Fruit is very hydrating. It's got vitamin C and it's got some different electrolytes in it. So if we need vitamin C and we need to be more hydrated, we need electrolytes, or we need other things that are high in fruit, it's possible to crave sugar instead. This is going to happen much more likely if you're already eating a lot of sugar. So a lot of junk food kind of tricks our body. So the sweet taste is like, oh, cool, we're getting the things we need to from fruit. And it's like, no, you're not. You're just getting sugar and flour and whatever else is in the treat. So yeah, just kind of realize that nutrient deficiencies can basically just increase cravings because your body's trying to get it. Now, when you're super in balance, this is going to work a lot better. Once you've kicked your sugar craving, if you actually need more fruit and more of the things in fruit, your body will crave fruit because you're more in balance. So cravings can get kind of wacky when you're out of balance, when you have gut dysbiosis, when you have the sugar addiction. It can really skew these. So just know, if you're not getting enough nutrients, it's really just going to make it worse and harder. So I'll get into it in a second, but like, eating a really nutrient dense diet is just one more thing you can do to decrease cravings, and obviously it's good for like a million other things too. So then, and I kind of said this, but just to make sure I get it in there, a very nutrient dense diet is very satiating. And when you feel very satiated from your diet, you're less likely to go eat a bunch of dessert or just have extra cravings. And then the 4th root cause is like emotional or a habitual craving. And I have 2 kind of extra little things here, but basically, if you tend to turn to sweets when you're sad, when you're angry, when you're, what else, depressed or anything like that, it's a dopamine high. It's kind of, you know, it makes sense that you could turn to that when you're feeling that way. But that's definitely not a healthy mechanism of dealing with that, which I'll get into a little bit later. But just know that sugar cravings can be kind of exemplified by that, especially if you're in the habit of, if I'm sad, I want ice cream. It's probably better to wait till you're not sad to have the ice cream. And then also the habitual nature. So if you always have a little, you know, coffee shop treat with coffee in the afternoon, or if you always have something sweet after dinner, know that that habitualness is addictive as well, just the habit of it. So after dinner, you're probably going to be really wanting your dessert, or in the afternoon, you're going to be really wanting your little treat. So realize that that's another important thing you're going to have to address in the process of overcoming this. Two other tiny little things is stress increases cravings. So that kind of ties into the emotional aspect. Yeah, when you're stressed, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of binge out on those sugary foods. And then also lack of sleep influences this as well, because when you don't get enough sleep, it influences your hunger and satiation hormones. So basically you feel less satiated from food and you feel more hungry. So if you're less satiated, more hungry, and you already are struggling with sugar, there's kind of a better chance you're gonna, eat more sugar. So getting enough sleep is another thing that can be really helpful. So now that you know the main kind of things that are causing sugar cravings, what can you actually do about it? How can you actually overcome these? So first, you gotta eat a nutrient-dense diet. So you gotta eat, what I talk about all the time, an ancestral diet, lots of nose to tail animal foods. Meat, dairy, eggs, animal fat are super, super satiating. They also are high in protein and fat are very satiating as well. So that can really help to decrease those cravings. So make sure you're just starting from this place where you are eating a very nutrient-dense, satisfying diet. So it's just gonna decrease those cravings, and it will help heal your gut microbiome. So that's helping with that root cause as well, so that over time you're gonna have less and less. Let's see. Okay, so then the second thing you need to do is you need to do a little more to heal your gut microbiome. So again, I have a whole video on this. I will touch on it briefly, but if you want to know like the whole shebang about healing your gut microbiome, then watch the video I'll put up in the corner. But basically, so you gotta eat fermented foods to start repopulating your gut microbiome with some healthy microbes. You're gonna have to start decreasing that sugar to starve out those ones that are feeding on the sugar. And you also want to avoid things like antibiotics, antibacterial soaps, like harsh cleaners. Anything like that is going to basically kill off a lot of the microbes. And if you're already dealing with dysbiosis and a lot of pathogenic ones, it's likely just going to leave room for more and more of those pathogenic ones to grow. So we don't want to do those kinds of things. You want to manage stress, eat a good diet, avoid alcohol, get enough sleep. All these things influence your microbiome. So you want to have good microbiome balancing practices all around. And the main thing you want to add is going to be plenty of fermented foods. Okay, the third thing you have to do is you got to wean off sugar. So depending on where you're starting and from how much sugar you're currently eating, how bad of an addiction this is, that's going to influence this process. If this is only a tiny little thing you kind of slipped up recently, you can probably just cold turkey cut sugar out, or cut it in half one week and cut it out the next week. But if you're eating like a lot of sugar, you're probably not going to want to just cut it out cold turkey, kind of like with drugs, how that would be really hard, and weaning off makes it a lot easier. It's the same thing with sugar. So, think about cutting your sugar intake in half one week, and, maybe keep it the same the second week, and then the third week, cut it in half again. Just start cutting it down till you're at a point where you can just boom, cut it off. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much that. So I want you to start like decreasing your sugar intake. The exact amount you decrease it, the exact frequency isn't the most important thing. It's just you want it to be basically spaced out enough that it's reasonable for you and you don't feel like you have these big willpower battles, but that it's manageable. But you don't want to drag it out for so long that it takes you forever to overcome your sugar cravings. So maybe space this out over like a month or something, depending on where you're at and what's working for you. But yeah, so gradually go off that. And then let's see. Okay, I have two more. So if you are dealing with the emotional sugar cravings, dig deeper there, do some journaling, meditating, whatnot, figure out where these emotions are coming from and really work on those at the root too. And then find like healthier ways to deal with them. I usually recommend that you don't eat while you're in a heightened emotion state. If you're really stressed, do something to calm down before you eat. If you're really sad, let those emotions pass, like cry, journal, go on a walk, whatever you need to do, but get more stable before you go to eat, So get out of the habit of using food as something that helps you cope with emotions. Instead, go in nature, go on walks, you know, take a break, talk to someone, journal, meditate, do something else to start to replace that. Yeah, that's just something I wanted to note on. So if you're using these things emotionally like that, that's kind of a separate thing to address. Then last of all, this one I think is super, super helpful. So replace your current dessert or sweets with something healthier. So, okay, for me, what I do is I have dessert every day. And that might sound funny because my whole career and what I do and what I share on here is all health related. But let me tell you what I have for dessert. So it varies, but almost every day it's going to be raw milk, dates with butter, these chocolate little mint things that I make that have 100% dark chocolate with no sweetener and some butter and peppermint extract. And then the middle layer is white chocolate with peppermint extract and a little butter. So there's a little bit of sugar in there because I haven't been able to find a good white chocolate without it. So there's a little sugar, but hardly any. And then another one of those dark chocolate layers. In the past, I've done this dark chocolate and peanut butter in the center, so there was no sugar. But if you like it a little sweeter, if the idea of chocolate with no sugar is horrifying to you, you can get the 80%, or you can get what I get and add a little honey or add a tiny bit. So there are ways you can work up to this, but basically I have that and then fruit. So my dessert is a little bit sweet, but it has practically no sugar in it. And I mean, obviously dates and fruit break down into some sugar, but they have so many other things. So it's actually a pretty nutrient dense thing. I really enjoy it after dinner. It's just really nice. And because I love my little dessert and I have it all the time, I don't really crave other things. In fact, when I have other desserts like a pumpkin pie or apple crisp or ice cream or something like that, I usually just miss my regular dessert because I like it so much. Oh, I usually have tea with it too. But yeah, so basically, you can make your own little chocolatey treats. You can get dark chocolate that's very dark. There's a lot of great companies out there that'll sweeten it with coconut sugar or honey or dates or something that's more natural, has more minerals in it, and is just a better source than refined white sugar. Or sometimes they just even use not as refined sugars that are better. But yeah, so I think this is really helpful, especially if you have that habitual sugar habit. If you usually have something after dinner or in the afternoon or whenever you do, replace it with something healthier. And you can use this gradually too. So, you can start with 50% dark chocolate, has a little more sugar, and work your way up to 60 and 75 and 80 or whatever. So you can use the kind of gradual weaning principle here too. But I find this really, really helpful because then, after dinner when you're I want my sweet, you have something there. So instead of going, oh, I'm so bummed I can't have X, Y, and Z and fixating on that, you're going, okay, it's time for dark chocolate, fruit, and raw milk. It's better. You focus on what you have instead of what you can't have. So yeah, that is super, super helpful. I think that's about it here. Yeah, those are my main tips. So basically, to recap, eat a super nutrient dense diet so that you're getting satisfied from your food and you're healing your gut microbiome. Add fermented foods, heal your gut microbiome in other ways. Watch that video I mentioned. Wean off the sugar gradually. Deal with any emotional issues that are coming up. Find healthier ways to cope with them than eating sugar. And then replace what you'd normally have as a sweet with a healthier alternative. And also make sure you're having protein, fat, and carbs all together in that. So if you're eating directly after dinner, hopefully you had a lot of protein and fat and carbs in your dinner, so that can balance it out. But if you have an afternoon snack sweet craving, don't just replace that with chocolate and fruit, because that's a big giant burst of carbs and spiking your blood sugar. So make sure you have something else, like milk is perfect, or any kind of dairy or yogurt or something like that. Is perfect for adding some protein and fat in there. So that'll be more satiating. It'll balance your blood sugar. It'll make it a lot healthier. So just remember that too. Yeah, so that's it for this video. Oh, I do want to talk about, at the beginning I mentioned, I do have some spots in my program right now. So basically, essentially, My program helps you to get to the root cause of your gut issues. So as you can tell, things like sugar cravings even tie back to your gut. So there's a lot of things here, but basically if you're dealing with bloating, constipation, diarrhea, gas, acid reflux, intestinal pain, skin issues, hormonal issues, thyroid issues, autoimmune diseases, anything like that ties back to your gut. So that's what I specialize in. I help people to get really clear on the root causes. I give them a roadmap for healing. I also give them personal suggestions, what would work best for them, what would work best for their lifestyle. I help them adjust things along the way. I give them support along the whole way. So as questions come up, as you need guidance, I'm there for you on that. Yeah, so that's kind of a very short little briefing on what I offer my program. So if that sounds like something you might be interested in, I'll leave a link below where you can book a call with me. Yeah, and you can tell me more about what you're hoping to achieve. I can tell you more about what I have to offer, and you can decide if it's something that you want to join or not. Yeah, so I hope to talk with you if you're interested in that. And then thank you again for watching this video. If you found it helpful, give it a like, share it with someone, subscribe, leave a comment. Anything like that helps me out a lot, and I really appreciate it. All right, bye.